Crying Blossom made a video on my video, and now I'm going to respond to it. I have literally nothing else to say for this intro, so let's get on to it. Again, I'm sick, so I'm sorry for the gross voice.
Okay, so I found this video come up onto my recommendation page to how bi-lesbian discourse is stupid from a channel named xxmushroom.girlxx, and I did watch the video, and it's grossly spreading misinformation.
Ah yes, because me saying that bi-lesbians are valid is apparently spreading misinformation.
That I had to say something as a non-binary lesbian individual.
Since this was brought up, I do want to address that in the comments section, a lot of people were saying that I didn't have the right to speak on the situation because I wasn't lesbian. I'm bisexual. Shut the fuck up. If you think that lesbians can talk about bi-lesbians, but bisexual people can't, you're a fucking idiot, and I think you're biphobic. Stop it. Stop ignoring bi people who want to talk about the situation, because we're talking about bi-lesbians here. Bi-lesbians. Also, I think the idea that only bisexuals and lesbians can talk about this and have a good opinion on the situation in general is just stupid, but if we're going by these dumbasses' logic, then yes, I am allowed to speak on the situation according to them. So, shut up. Don't say, oh, you can't speak on this situation because by your own stupid-ass flawed logic, I can.
Now I want to preface that I do not want people attacking this user.
I don't condone any harassment towards Crying Blossom either. The mean tone I use in these videos are meant to be putting on a character, a persona, and is also meant for entertainment, and also to vent my feelings on situations. I'm not doing it because I hate the person and I want them to die or something. So keep that in mind. Don't take my mean spirit personally. It's mostly just a character and is also me venting my feelings on situations. It has nothing to do with the people talking about it most of the time, and I'm usually not actually angry at them. At most, I'm usually angry at their opinions.
In fact, I want people to learn from this from an actual person who is a part of the group being talked about here.
I'm bisexual.
There will be times that I may get possibly heated in the video.
Trust me, you're fine. I get really fucking heated. Like, in every response video I ever make. You're fine.
However, I want to make it clear that I do not think Mushroom Girl is some terrible person.
Oh look, we have a normal, reasonable person we're talking about on this channel. That's a rare occurrence.
But has some mistakes worth correcting. One more thing to note here is that I will be speeding up the original video and or cutting out unnecessary pieces from the video so we can get straight to the point, as Mushroom Girl doesn't usually script their videos.
When I script shit, I sound like a robot. I just want to address that. That's why I don't script things. Also, it's an extra step that I need to do to make videos, and it's harder to make videos when I have to script them. So, yeah, that's why I don't script things, for anybody who's wondering, because there are a lot of people telling me, MG, just use a script, just script your videos, because I don't want to do that, because with the few videos I have scripted, they make me sound like a robot, and they take like a week to make, and I do not like taking that long to make commentary videos.
He poisoned our water supply, burned our crops, and delivered a plague unto our houses! He did? No, but are we just gonna wait around until he does?
I have a cold. Oh my god, I hate everything.
Toddler MG. I sound like a baby. Oh my god. I've never made my voice sound that high, and it is so funny.
Hello, Tazai. This video is about bi-lesbians. If you couldn't tell, it's basically me talking about why everyone needs to shut the fuck up. So, I have a very different opinion, a very weirdly unpopular opinion on bi-lesbians. Bi-lesbians are valid. Yeah. Now, I think that this is just a little silly. I think that this whole discourse is a little silly, seeing as bi-lesbians, like, first of all, when have you ever seen anyone that identifies as a bi-lesbian? Like, I'm just gonna say it. Bi-lesbians are not a common thing. They're not something that's, like, coming in the LGBT community rapidly. Like, no, I've never met a bi-lesbian. I've never met a bi-lesbian. I've met people who are similar and have similar identities to being a bi-lesbian. But, I've never met a bi-lesbian or a pan-lesbian, so I don't know I don't even know what started this discourse. But I guess some people decided that that's how they wanted to identify, and people got mad at that, which I understand, but I think that this whole discourse is fucking stupid.
You're right, because you'd rarely see someone go by such a false label. The label is definitely misleading, and I want to make it known that the concept and whole surrounding of this sexual concept is valid, as sexuality is a large spectrum. However, the label that is used for this is the issue, and we'll expand more on this later.
Now, first of all, there is something that I want to make very clear. The word bi-lesbian is referring to either a bisexual homo-romantic person, specifically a non-man, because if you were bisexual and homo-romantic and you were a man, that wouldn't make you a lesbian, that would make you a gay man or Vincian, whatever word you want to use. Or it could mean bi-romantic homosexual. And a lot of people don't know much about romantic identities. The only people who really know much about romantic identities are people who know about, asexual people, aromantic people. And since people who are asexual, aromantic, etc., as those people have been getting more traction and people have been noticing that asexual and aromantic people have started to identify with other terms, like, for example, asexual lesbians, aromantic lesbians, asexual bi-romantic people, etc. You get the point.
Again, you're correct in some way, yet then contradict yourself. You understand that the label is false and misleading in some way, however, you ignore that and continue on.
Sure, the term isn't the best. I understand it's a little bit, it's a little bit confusing, but it's not a technically wrong term, and I think that you should be arguing more towards changing the term than invalidating the term. Like, you should be focusing more on here's some other terms we could use, more than this term sucks and is bad and is harmful and is not valid, because there is literally no way that this term would be harming anyone.
Of course, the label doesn't work because it's false and misuses an already constructed label's meaning and term.
Why is that so bad? Like, what's so bad about taking two terms and squishing them together to make a new one? Like, seriously.
Again, the concept of this is valid, but the label is the issue.
Then who cares? It's a label!
You also mention asexuals and aromantics, which can be lesbians, as it doesn't mean it strips away the person's specific gender attraction. The asexual and aromantic spectrum is large too, and depends on who you ask that identify under this specific label or labels. They've always existed and have been accepted.
Yeah, and that's the issue. Why are these people accepted, but not these people? They should both be accepted because they are both essentially very similar.
This is going to become a pattern with Mushroom as they compare different concepts that are still valid and recognized as such as if they aren't.
Actually, no, because you are under the assumption that bi-lesbians are not valid. And if I compare things like ace-lesbians to bi-lesbians, you are automatically thinking that I think that ace-lesbians are not valid, even though I think that both bi-lesbians and ace-lesbians are valid. You have a very flawed perspective of what I was saying based on your own biases on what you think bi-lesbians are and whether you think they're valid or not. I was not saying that anybody was not valid, and I made it very clear that all the people I was talking about, all the groups of people I was talking about in my video were in fact valid, but apparently I was saying they're not valid because you said so, I guess.
People who are asexual or aromantic have been identifying with other terms that aren't in the ace spectrum, along with being either asexual or aromantic. And people, of course, there were people who were upset with that when that started to become more of a widespread thing. People were like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, because nobody really understood the difference between sexual and romantic attraction, which, yes, they are different, and yes, they are separate. While, yes, a lot of people's sexual and romantic identities do usually align, for example, me, sometimes they don't align, and that is very common with people who are in the asexual spectrum. And people, mostly, from what I've seen, people support asexual lesbians, people support asexual, bisexual, I keep saying asexual, bisexual, asexual, biromantic. People support aromantic bisexuals, people support aromantic lesbians, etc., etc. But nobody really supports bi lesbians. I mean, I do, and I know people who do. Most of the time, when I see people who support bi lesbians, it's more of just like, I don't fucking care, which is valid. I think it's completely valid. I also think it is completely valid to think that bi lesbians are a little silly. Like, I think if you think their identity is just a little bit silly, you know, it's a bit confusing, that is understandable, and that's not something I'm gonna shit on people for.
See, now they're mixing this all up. You seem to not understand that the fact of asexuality and aromantic is a large spectrum and doesn't change someone's sexual attraction towards a specific gender or more genders. People are upset because the label bi-lesbian doesn't exist, nor does it make any sense.
You haven't actually explained yet why the term is incorrect or wrong, because the word lesbian, as I explained later in my video, does in fact include both sexual and romantic attraction, but in the definition it lists them as separate. You'll see it in the video. It is listed in the official definition as separate, meaning that it can be one or the other, seeing as bi-lesbians are allowed to refer to themselves as lesbians by the actual definition of a lesbian. So no, the term isn't incorrect, and the fact that you're saying it without actually explaining why it's not incorrect is stupid.
Also, it's kind of funny how you say that you aren't going to shit on people if they find the concept silly, yet the thumbnail, title, and intro contradicts that statement.
There is a difference between finding the term silly and overreacting and acting like the term is harmful. The entire point of the intro and the thumbnail was me saying that people overreact when talking about bi-lesbians. That was the entire joke. That they overreact even though nothing has happened yet. That it was literally the entire joke of the intro.
But if you want to make a genuine argument talking about how bi-lesbians are shitty and are harmful to the lesbian community, it's always like, oh, they're harming the lesbian community, and I'll talk about that more in this video.
Yeah, it is pretty harmful considering the fact that it misuses the label lesbian when those who use it aren't lesbian.
All you've given us to go off of so far is, actually the term is bad and is incorrect because they're not actually lesbians. Which, not only in my video do I prove that, yes, they are in fact actually lesbians, but also, even if they weren't, let's say that what you're saying is completely true and that bi-lesbians are actually not lesbians, they just think they're lesbians. How is that harming lesbians? Oh no, there are not lesbians joining our community! Who cares? Why is that an issue? Like, why is that? Like, sure, it's not ideal, but it's not harmful. It's not harming people. Like, literally, how is that harming people? It's almost like the joke I was making in the thumbnail and the intro was kind of fucking accurate, and you're only proving that.
From your own mouth, you're bisexual. So why are you discussing this and deciding what is and isn't harmful to us lesbians?
Because nobody has given absolutely no proof when I, somebody who happens to just not be a lesbian, has actually given proof. It's not about who is and isn't a lesbian, it's about who has proof and who has decent arguments. When, you know, I seem to be coming out on top with that when it comes to me and you, because, yeah, I have proof in my video, and so far you've given me nothing.
It's not your place to decide if it is or isn't.
I'm not deciding shit. Nobody gets to decide, including you. People can only really just give arguments as to why or why not something is or isn't harmful. You haven't done that yet, other than, yeah, actually, they're not actually lesbians, so, yeah. That's literally all you've given so far, and are acting like that's sufficient evidence. It's not.
I think that's stupid. I think that people who make that argument are just a little silly. I think that that's a very silly argument to make. Now, let's really talk about this subject, right? Because nobody really wants to talk about it with the nuance it deserves. like, everybody's like, ew, they're weird. Why are you identifying like that? Just like, shut up. Now, the closest thing that we can compare bi lesbians to is non-binary lesbians or he/him lesbians.
By the way, I do want to say that I did fuck up in this part. I should have said ace lesbians. Genuinely, I think that ace lesbians are a way better comparison, but I do think the way that I compared them, the way I compared non-binary and he/him lesbians to bi lesbians here was actually good. I just think that the way I worded this specific part was a little bad. So I'm just kind of, saying that, yeah, I think that I could have worded that better. I don't think that that's the closest thing to compare it to. The real closest thing to compare it to would be ace lesbians or era lesbians.
Now, I'm going to be making an argument about bi lesbians and kind of how they kind of correlate with things like non-binary lesbians. And before I do that, I want to make note, non-binary lesbians are valid, and so are he/him lesbians. Because I'm going to make arguments that are kind of showing how, by the definition of lesbian, bi lesbians are more valid than non-binary lesbians by the definition of lesbian. But that does not mean I don't personally think that they're valid. I think that non-binary lesbians are valid. I think that he/him lesbians are valid. I see no issue with them existing. There's no harm with them existing, and I completely support them existing. But people often will argue that non-binary... So first of all, I do want to say the reason why I'm bringing up non-binary lesbians and he/him lesbians, which, if you don't know, to explain he/him lesbians, because people may be confused because, you can't be a man and be a lesbian. Some people go by he/him but aren't men. Mostly non-binary lesbians. Some will go by he/him or he/they or whatever, and they will not be men. They just identify with those pronouns. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care. I don't see an issue with them existing. Who fucking cares? Like, there are some people who are kind of iffy about he/him lesbians, and I understand and I sympathize with those people. I think that if you're a little iffy on he/him lesbians, I don't really care. Like, you can, don't invalidate them. Obviously, that's shitty. But I understand where you're coming from, and I think that your opinion is valid. And I think that you're allowed to have that opinion, just don't invalidate anyone's sexuality. In the same way that I think that if you think lesbians, if you think that bi lesbians are stupid, I think that is a completely valid opinion to hold. I just think that you shouldn't be invalidating people and calling it harmful when even if you think it's harmful, there's it's so stupid, because I'm gonna explain why it's not harmful. I'll definitely explain why it's not harmful. But first, I do want to break down the quick argument that before I do that, I'm sorry, I'm sick, so that's my excuse for my brain being all scrambled. Before I actually get onto the argument, I do want to say the reason why I'm bringing up non-binary lesbians, he/him lesbians, etc. The reason why I'm bringing these people up is because the majority of the people, most of the people, like 99% of the people who are arguing against bi lesbians argue for non-binary lesbians. And that's why I'm bringing it up. Because these people are being contradictory. And I'll explain why they're being contradictory in just a second. But if you support non-binary lesbians, why don't you support bi lesbians? And I'll explain why that is a thing. I'll explain why that is a statement I'm making right now. So, now, I actually need to pull up the definition on my phone really quick. I took screenshots. So, one argument that these people make is that actually, by the definition of lesbian, bi lesbians go against the definition of lesbian. Now, that may make sense when you think about it, yeah, but I actually looked up the definition of lesbian, and I'm going to read it out to you really quick. So, I'm going to read, there's a adjective and a noun definition. I'm going to read both of those out. And I'm going to point out some parts in this definition that not only invalidate the existence of non-binary lesbians, but also could possibly validate, there are multiple ways you could read into this definition, could possibly validate the existence of bi-lesbians. Lesbian, adjective, denoting or relating to women who are sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to other women or to sexual attraction or activity between women. Noun, a woman who is sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to other women, a gay woman. Now, you may be thinking, what does this definition prove? First of all, obviously, I think something that a lot of people notice is that it says women who are exclusively attracted to other women. And that that automatically, like, just disproves, if we're going off of this definition, disproves the existence of non-binary lesbians, which sucks. I think that there should be a more inclusive definition. I think that non-binary lesbians are valid, and I think that stretching the definition to be inclusive of non-binary people is a good thing, and I think that that is something that I do not see an issue with. These labels mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. You call yourself a lesbian, cool. Like, that doesn't affect anyone, and people argue that it does, but it literally fucking doesn't. Lesbian is literally a term. The way we describe sexuality and the way we kind of section it off into little boxes is a social construct. And I know the LGBTQ community, we love to talk about social constructs, but this is also a social construct. Obviously, our sexual attraction isn't, but the way we label and the way we put people into boxes of, and the LGBTQ community is literally basically a social construct in and of itself. Does that mean it's not, like, good or something? No. Like, obviously, having these labels is very beneficial. I just think that the way that we kind of push people out of certain labels is just stupid. I think it's just dumb. Like, honestly. Because these labels don't affect anyone. Like, they're literally just words that we use to describe certain sexual or romantic attractions. It literally does not matter. Now, with that rant aside, and I'll be talking more about that later, with my rant aside, I'm going to explain how this possibly could validate the existence of bi lesbians. Now, I'm going to read this out to you again. Denoting or relating to women who are sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to other women. Now, something you may have noticed in this definition is that it says, women who are sexually or romantically attracted exclusively to other women. See how it says or. It doesn't say and. It doesn't say sexually and romantically. It says sexually or romantically, meaning that could mean that you could be one but not the other. You could be a lesbian and be just sexually attracted to women, but maybe you're not romantically attracted to anyone, or maybe, maybe you're romantically attracted to men or all genders, maybe you're romantically, you get my point. Sure, maybe some people don't read the definition that way, but this is a way you can, in fact, interpret this definition, and it says the same thing in the noun definition. You could literally, easily interpret this definition as meaning bi lesbians are in fact valid.
No. You can't compare us non-binary lesbians or he/him lesbians because that's talking about pronouns and gender identity, not sexuality.
The reason why I was comparing them wasn't because I was comparing the identities themselves, but I was comparing how they actually hold up when you look at the actual definition of lesbian. You played that entire long-ass part and didn't notice that?
Pronouns do not equal to someone's gender,
Which is literally what I said, and you played that clip.
and non-binary people are those who identify as not having a gender.
Isn't that agender? Usually non-binary, non-binary can be agender. In general, non-binary just means you aren't in the box of the two binary sexes. That doesn't mean you don't have a gender. That would be agender.
And they've always been accepted. Now you're just spreading false information and comparing two different concepts while saying they've never been accepted.
What? I never said that they've never been accepted. I said that there are a lot of people who don't accept them. And you're acting like they've always been accepted. No, they haven't. There is literally no identity in the LGBT community that's always been accepted. Hell, even my sexuality, bisexual, hasn't always been accepted. Before people realized bisexuals did in fact exist, they were heavily scrutinized for just being, oh, you're a lesbian without wanting to be a lesbian, or you're gay without wanting to be gay. Literally every sexuality has been criticized, like, heavily by people, whether inside or outside the community. There is no such thing as a sexuality or gender identity in the LGBT community that has always been accepted. That is not a thing, and the fact that you try to act like that is fucking dumb. What are you talking about? I literally never even implied that non-binary people weren't always accepted or something. I was talking about non-binary lesbians in particular, not because that, oh, non-binary people suck, but because, oh, non-binary people aren't women, therefore they can't be lesbians. That's what I was talking about. I never even talked about non-binary people being accepted. I was literally talking about non-binary lesbians in particular because of their choice to want to identify as a lesbian.
When they have. I literally came out as a lesbian not too long ago, and everybody knew I was non-binary, and I was accepted perfectly fine.
Yeah, guess what? I came out as bisexual to my family, and none of them cared. That means that bisexuals don't face oppression, guys. When I came out as a non-binary lesbian, everyone accepted me. Okay, you probably just had a good group of friends then. Why does that even fucking matter? Like, good on you for having a good group of friends. I don't care. That's not something that's relevant in this conversation. And if you're talking about your fans, then, still, that doesn't really matter because that's just your fans. That's not the entire LGBT community. Also, I wasn't talking about, like, now. Like, I was talking about, like, you know, a while ago, back when non-binary lesbians first started to, like, you know, really become a widespread thing. I wasn't talking about, like, you know, like, at the time of making this video, everyone hates non-binary lesbians and want them all to die. Like, literally, this is so fucking stupid and you're arguing about shit that doesn't even matter.
Then you bring up the first definition you see about lesbians,
Which is the official Google definition. Usually official Google definitions are, you know, the best thing you can get other than a fucking dictionary.
and twist it as if it's always meant strictly full female individuals.
That's literally what it says. I can't even fucking twist it. It's literally right there. Like, there's no way that I could twist this to mean anything. Literally, it says nothing about non-men or nothing about women and non-binary people. It literally just says women. If you want to believe that non-binary lesbians are valid, you know, like I do, you need to realize that sometimes definitions, when it comes to terms like these, do need to be tweaked a little bit so they can be more inclusive. It's not that big of a fucking deal. You're acting like I'm trying to, like, invalidate your existence. I'm not. Just because a definition says that you're not valid does not mean you're not valid, which is literally what people are trying to argue with bi-lesbians, even though the actual definition does actually support bi-lesbians. I'm literally trying to show that even if bi-lesbians weren't supported by the definition, neither are non-binary lesbians, which is why it's not that big of a deal for people to be, you know, tweaking definitions to be able to better fit what the definition is needed for. It's not that big of a deal, and you're acting like I'm literally trying to invalidate your existence.
Living full female individuals. Everybody knows it's more inclusive than that.
Proof? Evidence? What's that? Never fucking heard of it. Everyone knows it's more inclusive than that. Yeah, because it's been manipulated into being more inclusive, which is fine, and all it does is do positives for the LGBT community and makes it more inclusive to people, which is why I stated that I am okay and in support of that practice. But what I am trying to show here is that if we can manipulate the definition for non-binary lesbians, why can't we do it for bi-lesbians, even under the assumption that the definition doesn't already support bi-lesbians, which it does. I wasn't trying to prove that you weren't valid. I was trying to prove that manipulating definitions is a thing that we do, and it's not that big of a fucking deal. You literally just scoffed at me for using the Google definition and then are not showing an actual separate definition that I should go off of. You are literally saying, your proof sucks, but I'm not gonna show any proof of my claim. That is fucking stupid. Like, I swear. Like, there are some of your videos that are really good and have actual good logic, but this is not one of them.
The definition you pulled is just some quick and easy understanding of it.
What definition are you going off of? I'm literally using the Google definition.
The part where you bring in the difference of sexual attraction and romantic attraction is to also fit in asexuals and aromantics.
Who fucking cares? It's literally not about why it was done. It's about the fact that it was done. Just because it was done for this group of people doesn't mean that it can't also be for other groups of people. What the fuck?
My god, you do not know at all what you're talking about.
I made a claim. I showed evidence for that claim. You refuted the claim, shat on my evidence, and then didn't give any evidence that actually proved your claim. You literally cannot be talking about how I don't know what I'm talking about when I showed proof of my claim and you have yet to do that.
Oh, and on top of that, you're perfectly fine with people interpreting what it means. That just allows more false information to spread.
So what's the right interpretation, huh? Tell me what the right interpretation is, dumbass. Oh, I'm not allowed to interpret the definition the way I want. Then what's the objectively correct way to interpret it then? What's the factual way to interpret it then, huh? What's the factual way to be interpreting this definition? It seems like you're fucking biased, and any other way that you don't see that people interpret a definition, it's automatically wrong because it goes against your beliefs. Just admit you're biased and go fuck off somewhere. Go outside, talk to actual queer people in real life. Literally nobody should be caring about this stupid fucking shit that literally does not matter in the grand scheme of things. We live on a fucking big rock. We're all gonna die someday, and we're fucking arguing over bi lesbians. This is fucking pathetic. Honestly, why does this discourse exist? I am going to punch a wall.
But people don't want to kind of realize that. Sure, if you don't see it that way, that's fine. But I do want to say this is an interpretation, a very valid and very easily seen interpretation of this definition. And I do think that even if this didn't say that, I think that stretching a definition to be a little bit more inclusive, I don't see an issue with that. That's why I support non-binary lesbians. I think that stretching the term lesbian to also be inclusive to non-binary people is a good and positive thing for our community, which is why I support non-binary lesbians, even though the actual definition of lesbian does not actually include non-binary people. I think that non-binary people are valid in identifying as lesbians in the same way that I think that bi-romantic people can identify as lesbians, or bisexual people can identify as lesbians.
No, Mushroom Girl, you cannot be a lesbian if you find attraction whether romantically or sexually to anyone who is a man.
But the actual definition of lesbian disproves that. It says sexually or romantically, not sexually and romantically. If that was actually a part of the definition, it would be in the actual definition. All we're doing by making this arbitrary line on if you're attracted to men in any way, you can't be a lesbian. By that logic, fucking my friend Bleed, you're not a lesbian, you're attracted to fictional men. Yeah, those JoJo characters you wanna fuck, you're not a lesbian anymore, I hate you. God. Bleed, I'm sorry, Bleed, but, yeah, you're not a lesbian anymore. I'm taking away your lesbian card. Sorry, you're bisexual now. Welcome to the club, bitch. But in all seriousness, you can interpret the definition to mean that, yes, in fact, bi lesbians are lesbians. There is literally a part in it that says that bi-lesbians could be valid if you interpret it that way. If you don't, then that's fine. I don't care. You're allowed to not interpret it that way. But you're not allowed to be a shitbag about it and act like my interpretation isn't valid. Your interpretation is valid, my interpretation is valid. Oh, but apparently no. Apparently the entire definition is just bad because, you said so and it doesn't go for what you personally think a lesbian is, meaning that it's wrong because you're the baseline for opinions. Fuck, I forgot. Sorry.
That's not how it works, and that's not what lesbians are.
Show fucking proof. I was expecting to, maybe even get proved wrong in this video, seeing how you are a genuinely good commentator. Maybe I'd see some evidence that I'd need to argue against, but I haven't seen shit. I haven't seen literally any evidence. Like, this is so easy. This is literally so easy. This is, like, fucking easy content. Like, I thought that I'd actually have to be, like, working hard to prove my stance in this video, but you haven't shown a lick of proof. So this is such fucking easy content, I swear.
Stop trying to redesign what we are.
If you can't redesign the term lesbian, then you aren't a fucking lesbian. Oh my god, either you're a lesbian or you're not a lesbian. Pick one. Either you can manipulate definitions to be more inclusive to people, and you are a lesbian, or you can't and you're not a lesbian. Fucking pick one. You are literally invalidating your own identity. Stop it. You are making yourself look like an idiot. Everyone knows the definition is different, is not valid proof. Stop. You are making yourself look like a moron. Stop it. I thought that I'd be having a good discussion in this video, but goddamn, you haven't even shown any kind of proof. All you're saying is, actually you're wrong. That's literally all this video is. I'm sorry, you've made better videos than this. Goddamn, this video is fucking trash. I'm sorry, I had to say it. This, like, you make good content. I've watched your content before. You have made good and informative videos, but this is not one of them. You usually show proof. Where is that here?
You get what I'm saying? And, like, I think that when we kind of say that certain identities that aren't harming anyone is not valid, I think that all we're doing is just causing discourse, and we're not actually, like, doing anything good for the community. I think that, we as a community should be, you know, being more inclusive of other identities. Now, there is another argument I've seen, and that is a very, very popular argument, that I've seen against bi lesbians. First, I'm going to take a sip of my drink. So, give me a second. Okay. My throat has been moistened. I'm sorry, I'm never using that word again. Now, this next argument is one that I see very, very often, and it is that these bi lesbians are taking their disgusting. No, this is a hyperbole. Hyperbole? I don't know. How do I say words? This is a hyperbole. So that was a joke. No, but they're taking these people who like men and they're putting them in lesbian spaces. That is an argument I've seen so much, and it's so silly because here's the thing. First of all, lesbian spaces. Why do those need to exist? I've heard the argument of like, well, you know, shared experience, blah, blah, blah. And I just think, I just think it's, like, first of all, what do we mean? What do they mean when they say lesbian-only spaces? Like, do you mean, like, the first thing I think of is, like, there's, like, TikTok accounts that are, like, non-lesbians do not interact. And there's, like, one of those for, like, every sexuality. And I just think it's silly. It's literally just further dividing us. I think that queer women spaces are great because that includes anybody who identifies as a woman who is queer. I think that is great, and I think that yeah, queer women do deserve to have their own space. Do they need to have their own space? Like, is it something that they need? Not really. I don't really know. Like, I don't know.
I'll save you the research since it seems that you can't even do that. What it means is that sometimes people create spaces for certain gender identities or sexual identities for a safe space for them to be and thrive in.
Yeah, I knew that part, but like, what does that mean? Like, what spaces? What are these spaces physically? Are these online spaces like group chats or like, you know, group stuff like that? Are they like, you know, physical spaces like bars? Like, what are we talking about here?
As sometimes other people in our community decide to hate on us.
Wait, didn't you literally make the argument that nobody hated on you for being a lesbian and therefore, like, being lesbian is, like, overall valid in the LGBT community? Where is that now? Apparently, we need lesbian spaces because lesbians are shat on by the community, but apparently non-binary lesbians, who are lesbians, by the way, aren't apparently shat on because your fans said so, but your fans also said that lesbians are okay. So, like, oh my god. Like, dude, what is even your logic here? You're contradicting what you said earlier in the video.
And that goes for any sexual identity or gender identity. It's nothing wrong. It's not like we're ignoring or shaming other people.
The argument I was making is that these spaces literally just give people an excuse to, like, gatekeep what is and isn't a lesbian. Literally, like, this is the argument that is used towards everyone. It is used towards non-binary lesbians, he/him lesbians. Fucking, it's probably been used towards ace and era lesbians. They're not real lesbians, they're invading our spaces. That's why I think that this whole blah 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 lesbian spaces thing is just something that all it's really done is cause harm. Sure, if you want to have a lesbian space, I don't care. I'm not gonna argue against it. I'm not arguing against lesbian spaces. I'm just saying, I feel like they don't really need to exist, and I feel like the queer spaces that, we need should be more vague and more inclusive of other people. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that having a lesbian-only space is hating on everyone who isn't a lesbian. That's not what I was trying to say.
It's just we can have a safe space for people like us to thrive in. Believe it or not, Mushroom Girl, there are still people in our own community that hate on other gender identities and sexual identities.
But according to your fans, apparently non-binary lesbians aren't a part of that. Non-binary lesbians aren't hated on because my fans said so, but lesbians are shat on so much in the community, so much that we need a space specifically for lesbians so they can feel safe. Please, for the love of God, please be consistent with your arguments.
I don't think I wouldn't want a space. Like, I'm a queer woman. I don't really care if I have a space just for my people or not. I don't really care. Like, who fucking cares? And I definitely don't want some, like, bisexual only space. I think that that's stupid, and I, as a bisexual, would not be interacting in those spaces because who fucking cares? It's literally a word we use to identify who we want to fuck. Like, chill. I don't think we need any kind of, like, this sexuality only spaces. All it's doing is further dividing us and giving us reasons. It's literally just giving people reasons to push people out of spaces. Like, if we, like, just kind of, like, I think that I think that having labels to like, explain how you feel is good. I just think that those labels shouldn't be, like, held to such importance. And I think that we shouldn't, like, if you want to be in, like, a lesbian-only space, I don't really care. Like, that's not really my business. Do what you want, I guess. But if you're using that as an excuse to kick certain people out, then I think you're just annoying. One thing I do want to say is I feel like he/him lesbians would make lesbians more uncomfortable in lesbian spaces than bi lesbians would. Because here's the thing: if you are so uncomfortable by the like presence of a bisexual person in your lesbian-only space, I think you're just being a little silly. And I think you need to chill the fuck out. And maybe there's some internalized biphobia in that head of yours. But like, if you're that upset by somebody who might identify as bisexual or biromantic in your space, I think you're just being, like, really fucking silly, and I think you need to go outside. Like, go outside.
What happened to not shitting on people who find the concept silly?
I was talking about people with internalized biphobia who hated the idea of bisexuals being anywhere near them. I was not talking about the people who just don't really like the term that much. What the fuck are you talking about?
People aren't mad about the concept of attraction. They're mad because of the misuse of the already known label, lesbian.
You could use that argument to say that you aren't allowed in lesbian-only spaces. Stop. You are literally invalidating your own identity. Again, the term lesbian does not include non-binary people in the official definition. You are literally saying that by definition, you are not a lesbian. You are making yourself look like a moron. Again, stop it. I am literally so done with this stupid ass argument. I don't want trans women in my women-only spaces. I don't want trans lesbians in my lesbian-only spaces. I don't want non-binary people in my lesbian-only spaces. I don't want people who go by he/him pronouns in my lesbian-only spaces. I don't want bisexual lesbians or biromantic lesbians in my lesbian-only spaces. I am going to kill myself.
As a means to fit in that lesbians can be bi, when that's not at all what we are.
Obviously, you aren't gonna know what being a bi-lesbian is like because you're not a bi-lesbian. Honestly, if I knew any bi-lesbians, I would have gotten them to speak in this video. I would have gotten a statement from them for this video. I would have gotten a statement from them for my last video, actually. But I don't know any, so unfortunately, I don't have anybody who can kind of make a statement on why they're a bi-lesbian and, why they think bi lesbians are valid and what they think of my arguments. That would be great, except I don't have a bi lesbian friend or anybody I know who I can contact who is a bi lesbian. If there's any bi lesbians here who want to, make a statement in the comments, go ahead. Feel completely free. I think that'd be awesome. I'd love bi lesbians' opinions on this.
Again, people are upset at the label, not the concept mushroom.
I literally showed proof that the label was valid, yet you're saying actually it's not valid because I said it's not valid. That's literally this entire video. You are being an idiot. Please, for the love of God, learn what evidence is.
But no, you don't know that because you don't know what you're talking about.
Lesbians can only be defined by what I think lesbians should be defined by.
And your arguments have zero weight.
You have not shown any proof.
I'm not going to go on further because I know I'd just be repeating myself at this point.
Maybe that wouldn't be an issue if you actually had evidence.
And again, no hate towards this person, but honestly, this video is so misinformed. Mushroom Girl is not a lesbian. They are a bi individual.
Oh, so that's your excuse, huh? I didn't show any evidence because I'm a lesbian and you aren't. I'm going to punch a wall. I've said that 3 times in this video. But people like this make me so angry, and I didn't think I'd be getting angry in this video, because I did not think that this video would be so fucking brain dead, despite the person who was making it being a very good commentator. They have made good videos in the past, but this video was just so fucking terrible.
And so they should not be talking about lesbian issues.
You should not be talking about lesbian issues because you're being a fucking idiot about them. Show some proof and then we'll talk. It's like I always say, don't say they're wrong because they're not a part of a minority group. Say they're wrong because they're uneducated. This is literally the peak of that, but the opposite. Don't say they're right because they're in a minority group. Say they're right because they're educated. And in this case, you fucking aren't.
When they have no idea what we face and what we feel.
Maybe it's just me, but I feel like showing proof to your claims is a little bit more important than knowing how the other person feels.
It's not their place to decide and dictate what we should feel about that.
You've literally been arguing this entire time basically against the fact that you're a lesbian, even though apparently you are a lesbian, but you're not actually, but you are, but you're not. Literally, this is so confusing. You're literally arguing shit that would imply that you aren't a lesbian and then say you are. Literally pick a side. Also, you don't speak for every lesbian, just like I don't speak for every bisexual. Stop. You don't speak for what every lesbian says.
It's not their place to try and compare different concepts that have zero weight to each other.
They do have shit to do with each other, especially when it comes to ace lesbians. Ace lesbians and bi lesbians are extremely fucking similar.
And it's gross how they misinform their audience by comparing people like me, a non-binary lesbian, to things such as bi lesbians.
How dare I be compared to a different identity that I don't like? Literally, this is the exact same fucking argument as, ew, you go by xenogenders and you're trans? Well, I don't want to be compared to that, bro. Ew, get out of our community. It's literally the same fucking thing. Stop it. Stop it. Stop talking. Stop talking. Every word you say is literally either contradicting shit about you as a person, or just is, oh, this is true because I said so. Stop talking, please.
That's really fucking gross and disrespectful in my opinion.
You have literally been using this entire video to basically say this is a lesbian and this isn't a lesbian based on my personal standards. That's literally what you've been saying this entire time. Yet, when I show actual proof and give an actual consistent, way of thinking about this situation, you get all pissy and then start saying, well, actually, I'm a lesbian and because I said this, it's true. When you have literally no consistency, no evidence to what you're saying, you don't have anything, yet the something I have is being constantly scrutinized by you. Oh, you used this as your evidence? Well, you didn't use any evidence, so shut up. You don't get to criticize somebody else's evidence when you don't even use evidence yourself to prove your claim, when you kind of need that for this claim.
And we're not like bi lesbians. We've always been accepted.
Are you literally implying that if it's not completely validated from the very start by the rest of the LGBTQ community, then it's invalid? Well, say goodbye to fucking xenogenders then. Say goodbye to bisexuals. Say goodbye to non-binary. Say goodbye to trans people. Say goodbye to like just say goodbye to almost everybody, because literally there are so many different identities that when they first became a thing, people criticized them in the community, and people in the community talked about how they were invalid and making the community look bad. Are you fucking kidding me? You were literally invalidating. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a thing with fucking, like, gay men invalidating lesbians because they were, like, sexist or thought that women shouldn't be in their community. Literally everyone invalidates everyone. Like, there is literally no identity that has not been invalidated to some degree.
So have he, him lesbians, because pronouns don't equal gender.
But before people realized that, these lesbians did get a lot of scrutiny for quote-unquote not being real lesbians.
Mushroom, you don't know what you're talking about.
Hi, today I'm going to be teaching you a new word called proof. Synonyms are evidence, showing screenshots of the shit you're saying, and not being an idiot. Yeah, do that.
Again, Mushroom Girl, it's not the sexual concept of it that makes people upset, it's the label of the concept.
Which I proved as being valid.
It's not appropriate for the actual meaning of it.
I think you guys know what I'm going to say here, so I don't even think I need to say it.
And it just misuses an actual already constructed term.
Stop talking. You are literally using logic that could invalidate your own existence. Stop it. Stop talking, please. For the sake of your channel, stop.
Such as lesbian. Nobody is invalidating someone's sexual preference. It's the label that is not okay.
The label isn't okay because I said so. You'd be a great parent.
I don't know why you think that it was the sexual preference.
Because there were people literally invalidating the sexual preference because they didn't understand the difference between sexual and romantic attraction. I also addressed the label in my video, and you're just ignoring the fact that I did because, oh, well, my definition that I made up on the spot is definitely the good and right one, and the one that you got from Google is bad and wrong. How dare you use evidence for your claims? Literally, this is so fucking pathetic.
As you've stated that you don't even know what started the whole thing to begin with.
I mean, I know what started it, but I just don't know why. Like why? Why does this matter? Why does this matter? And you've literally given me no fucking, like, you haven't given me anything. You have not convinced me. I'm just saying, like, if this video was to convince me that I'm wrong, you literally convinced me that I'm more right than I thought. If literally one of the really good commentators of this community can make this good of an argument against what I'm saying, that makes me feel good about my opinion.
It is not about the sexual preference. It's about the label that is harmful and not valid.
Prove it's not valid. You literally in this video have not proved that the label isn't valid. You just said it isn't because you said so. Stop. Okay, the conclusion of this video is that this was a terrible video, worst Crying Blossom video I've ever watched, and I promise you I am not being biased. If this video was just a video talking about bi lesbians without me in the picture, or was talking about some other commentator I didn't know and it had nothing to do with me, this would still be the worst Crying Blossom video literally ever. This video had literally no evidence, despite my video having evidence that actually proved what I was saying. And instead of actually showing evidence that would counteract the evidence I had, you decided to say actually your evidence is bad and not show any evidence yourself. You basically said this is a bad and harmful thing because I said so. That's literally this entire video. And may I emphasize again, there was literally no proof to what you were saying. You didn't even show a fucking definition. Literally all I had to do was look up on Google the definition, screenshot it, and then pick it apart a little bit to kind of, be able to take an interpretation from it that other people may not notice. You literally just said, yeah, you're wrong because I said so. That was this entire video. I am genuinely disappointed. Your other videos are very good. I haven't watched all your content, but I have watched some, and you are genuinely good at making videos. Where is that in this video? Like, seriously, what? When I saw that you had been the one to make a video on me, I was pleasantly surprised because I know how your content is, and I know that your video would have been a very good and productive video, and me responding to it would have been a very good and productive conversation, and we could maybe come to an agreement or, correct misunderstandings, or even just agree to disagree. It wouldn't be any kind of, nothing aggressive, no drama, no nothing. Just, two people disagreeing and having a discussion about it. That would have been great, and that's what I expected when I went into this video, but I got bullshit arguments from a usually very good commentator, and it's literally so mind-boggling that these arguments are so terrible when usually your videos are genuinely good. And all that shows is that bi lesbians, really, there's not much to really argue against bi lesbians at this point because nobody's giving me these good arguments. And seeing as somebody like you, who's a genuinely good commentator, having such dog shit arguments about this topic just makes me feel more confident on my stance, because you'd think that somebody like you, who is a genuinely amazing commentator, would have actually good and constructive things to say about this video. Yet this entire video was you saying, actually, it's harmful because I said so. And that's just, like, seriously, this video was not good. I am sorry. This video sucked. That you have made great content, but this is not one of them. This video was terrible. I'm sorry. Crying Blossom, oh my god, my voice, just like, my voice, did you hear that? Fucking cracked, like, horribly. Okay, anyway, back on track. I really expected more from you, and, it sucks that your video was not good at all. But, yeah, I don't have any hate towards you or anything. I hope everyone watching has a good day, and goodbye.